August 14, 1969, eastern border of Phuoc Tuy Province, South Vietnam. 02:17 a.m. The jungle is sleeping, but not silent. Humidity clings to the skin like a second uniform. Cicadas drone in long metallic waves. Somewhere in the dark, a bamboo stem cracks, so faint that most soldiers would never hear it. But Sergeant Bill Mako McAllister, point man of the Australian SAS, stops mid-step. He doesn't raise his fist, he doesn't whisper, he simply breathes in and listens. The rest of the six-man patrol freezes behind him, statues with rifles. The moon is a thin white blade above the canopy, barely touching the forest floor. The night smells of rot, wet leaves, and something else. Something disturbed. McAllister lowers to a knee. His right hand brushes the soil, warm, loose on top, cooler beneath. Someone walked here, recently. More than one. He leans forward, nose inches above the ground. A faint musk rides the air, drifting from the northwest, carried by the direction of the breeze. Sweat, rope fibers, freshly crushed pandan leaves, human movement disguised by jungle scent, but not well enough. Corporal Ian Roker whispers behind him, too soft for anyone beyond the patrol to hear. "Movement," McAllister answers with a slow motion of his fingers. 3 men. Light load, 10, maybe 15 minutes ahead. The patrol splits their rifles outward, forming an invisible ring. No one talks, no one shifts weight. Even their breathing synchronizes, long, silent, controlled. Because they know what McAllister knows. They are not alone out here. The jungle ahead feels wrong, not by sight, but by pressure. As if the trees themselves are holding their breath, Roker steps forward and crouches beside the sergeant. His hand slides along a fern. Its stem is bent, not broken, and the angle of the bend shows direction, eastward. Someone brushed it while slipping through the darkness. "VC scouts," Roker murmurs. McAllister nods once, but there's something else. 2 meters ahead, a patch of soil dampness doesn't match the rhythm of last night's rain. McAllister touches it, still cooling, meaning it was disturbed recently. Very recently, the forest whispers again. This time a single tick, like a dry twig nudged by weight. The patrol goes motionless. Every ear is open. Every rifle is half an inch from rising. Roker's heartbeat is so loud in his head he worries the enemy will hear it. But McAllister's pulse barely changes. McAllister leans closer to the ground, almost touching his cheek to the leaves. He inhales once more. The smell confirms it. Gun oil. Cheap, Soviet-made. Not Australian. He turns his head slightly toward Roker and mouths one word. "They're waiting." The patrol backs into the undergrowth, their motion fluid slow, coordinated like a single organism. They slip behind a curtain of vines, blending until their silhouettes dissolve into the shadows. Now the jungle is a battlefield of nerves. Somewhere ahead, those Viet Cong scouts believe they are hunting. They believe they're unseen, but the Australians have already mapped them by temperature, scent, and sound. And as the seconds pass, the shape of the enemy position becomes clearer. A small team, concealed under a fallen tree, watching the trail, ready to spring an ambush on whatever unit dares to pass. The VC think this ambush will be one-sided. They don't know the Australians are already reading them like a story written on leaves and soil. They don't know the SAS have smelled the jungle shift. Behind McAllister, Lieutenant Terry Jade slides forward, whispering into the sergeant's ear. "What have you got?" McAllister doesn't look away from the darkness. 3 scouts, maybe 4. They're settled in the scrub ahead. They think they're ghosts. And us? McAllister allows himself the faintest grin. We're the ones the ghosts fear. He raises his hand, 3 fingers. The signal. The patrol begins to move, silent as mist. The SAS aren't taking the ambush head on. They're going around it, becoming the shadow behind the shadow, using the jungle itself as their ally. And in less than a minute, the hunted become the hunters. Because tonight, the jungle speaks, and the SAS know how to listen. The Australians slide through the undergrowth, circling wide, moving opposite the faint scent trail McAllister identified. The jungle swallows them, thick ferns brushing their sleeves, vines dragging gently across their gear, yet not a single leaf snaps underfoot. This is the difference between moving through the jungle and moving with it. By 02:29 a.m., the patrol has maneuvered behind the VC scouts. The ambush site becomes visible piece by piece, a fallen tree trunk hollowed by termites slick with moss, a cluster of bamboo stalks swaying unnaturally where bodies hide against them, the faintest tremor in the grass where a rifle muzzle rests on a bipod. 3 Viet Cong scouts lie in wait, young, still, focused, their rifles positioned toward the trail the SAS left behind minutes earlier. They think the enemy is still in front of them. Lieutenant Terry Jade raises his binoculars. What he sees confirms McAllister's read, a classic L ambush, tightly set, poorly concealed from the rear. Jade lowers the binoculars, whispering, "They're not rookies, they covered their tracks." McAllister shakes his head, but not the scent, and not the soil. He points to a dark patch just left of the fallen tree, soil displaced, then smoothed over by a hand. To most eyes, it's invisible. To a trained SAS point man, it's loud as a boot print. The patrol positions themselves in a shallow crescent, every soldier tucked into a natural blind spot. No branches moved, no silhouettes exposed. Their rifles remain low. No one wants to fire unless forced. This isn't a shootout. This is a reversal. Corporal Roker crawls forward like a lizard, inch by inch. He stops near a vine whose leaves are trembling ever so slightly. Beneath it, a VC scout's shoulders rise and fall with controlled breathing. Roker lifts a small stone, smooth and round. He tosses it gently past the scout, barely a flick. The stone taps a tree trunk. The reaction is immediate. The scout's head turns toward the sound, rifle shifting with it. That shift exposes a sliver of movement to Sergeant McAllister. A reflex turn, subtle but revealing. McAllister's eyes narrow. His hand lifts, signaling silently. One more scout. Behind the bamboo. Hidden better. Jade's heartbeat jumps. If McAllister can detect a fourth man this well hidden, it means the ambush is tighter than they expected, and the patrol is deeper inside the kill zone than any officer would ever want to be. But McAllister isn't worried. He's excited. The lieutenant leans close and whispers, "How the hell did you know there was a fourth?" McAllister touches 2 fingers to his nose. "Smelled him." Jade stares. "You're joking." Cigarette smoke in his clothes, probably from earlier in the night. A beat. Cheap brand. North Vietnamese. The lieutenant mutters, "Bloody hell." The VC scouts shift slightly in their hides, listening for the sound Roker caused. Their ears are tuned forward, toward the trail they believe the Australians still patrol. They whisper among themselves in faint clicks and hisses, relaying hand signals meant to tighten the ambush. They never look behind them. Night breeze drifts through the trees again, bringing with it a scent that belonged to the jungle moments ago. Wet soil, crushed fern, wild ginger. But now it carries something else. The stale smell of sweat from the VC scouts' uniforms, the metal tang of their rifle barrels, and the faint burn of oiled bolts. To the Australians, it's as clear as footprints. To the Viet Cong, it's just the jungle. Jade touches McAllister's shoulder. "Do we move in?" McAllister scans the ground one last time, reading the soil, the angle of bent grass, the breathing rhythm of the scouts. It all confirms what he sensed from the beginning. The VC ambush has a weakness. "Not yet," he whispers. "Let them commit first." And for 3 still, slow seconds, the patrol waits while the jungle holds its breath, until a faint rustle reveals the scouts shifting into their final, deadly positions. The trap is set, but for the wrong side. The VC scouts settle into their positions, unaware the danger has already slipped behind them. They tighten their grips on their rifles. One wipes sweat from his upper lip, leaving a faint streak of soil. Another adjusts the strap on his rucksack, shifting his weight just enough to make the bamboo creak. Sergeant McAllister catches that creak instantly, not just because it's sound, but because it's the wrong kind of sound. Bamboo doesn't bend like that unless someone leans on it, which means the far scout is nervous, which means they're minutes, maybe seconds, from triggering their ambush. Lieutenant Terry Jade lowers his head to McAllister's ear. They're settling in for a long wait. This is their kill trail. McAllister's fingers trace the soil once more. He feels the temperature shift, warm on one side, cool on the other, meaning soil was disturbed at 2 different times. One set of prints older, one fresher. The scouts repositioned earlier after hearing movement. He whispers back, "They're expecting infantry, not us." Roker crawls up beside them. "What's the play, boss?" McAllister's reply is simple. "We cut their sight. We take their breath. No gunshots. The SAS were known for something the Viet Cong rarely encountered: ambushes that hit silently, surgically, without a single shot fired. McAllister points to two soldiers, Trooper Hayes and Trooper Lenny Rhodes. They nod and begin slipping into the ferns, moving parallel to each other like shadows cast by moonlight. Meanwhile, Jade watches the VC Scouts through his binoculars. Their discipline is good. Their camouflage is excellent. Their position is textbook. But Jade sees the same weakness McAllister does. Their ears and eyes are pointed forward, waiting for ghosts that aren't there. The Australians are behind them, where no enemy should be. Hayes inches closer to the first scout. 20 meters, 15, 10. Every movement is coordinated with the natural sounds of the jungle. When a gust of wind pushes leaves across the ground, Hayes advances. When a cicada chirps and echoes through the canopy, Rhodes shifts closer to his target. They move in rhythm with insects and branches, as if choreographed by the forest itself. Then it happens. A slight change in air pressure, a pocket of warm air rolling across the scout's flank as the night breeze shifts direction. It carries a tiny trace of something distinctly human. Australian sweat. Gun oil. Damp canvas. The VC Scout closest to Hayes stiffens, nostrils flaring. His instincts flare too. He looks left, but he doesn't see Hayes. Hayes is already beneath the fern line, frozen, invisible. The scout whispers to his comrades, soft, urgent Vietnamese. Roker signals to Jade. "They're sensing something," Roker breathes. Jade's jaw clenches. "We're losing the element." But McAllister places a hand on Jade's arm, steady, calm. "No, they're reacting to the jungle, not to us." And he's right. The scouts crawl forward an inch, focusing on the faint scent that drifted from the wind. They think it came from the trail, from the direction the Australians should be coming from. Their alertness increases, eyes narrowing, fingers tightening around rifle triggers. They think they're tracking their prey. They are, in fact, turning their backs even further. Hayes moves again. 5 meters, 4, 3. He can hear the VC Scouts breathing, fast but controlled, like someone who knows danger is near but misjudges its direction. Rhodes is approaching the second scout the same way, reading every muscle twitch, every shift of weight, every vibration through the soil. His grandfather taught him how to hunt feral pigs in Queensland. He always said, "The jungle doesn't hide animals, animals hide in the jungle. Learn the difference." Rhodes learned it well. McAllister studies the terrain one last time, the soil, the scent, the pressure of the air, everything aligns. "Jade," he whispers, "it's time." The lieutenant raises a hand, 3 fingers. Hayes and Rhodes tighten their grips on their knives, 2 fingers. The jungle grows unnaturally still. 1 finger, breath holds, leaves tremble, moonlight glints off steel. 0. The SAS strike, silent, precise, instant. The moment Lieutenant Jade's finger drops, the jungle seems to inhale. Hayes erupts from the ferns, not with speed, but with accuracy. His left hand clamps over the first scout's mouth, dragging him backward into the brush before the man can even exhale in shock. His right hand drives the blade in a precise, quiet arc, under the ribs, angled upward, the way SAS instructors taught their men in Kanungra's hellish rainforest courses. The scout's eyes widen, fear, confusion, disbelief. Then they dim. Rhodes is just as fast. He buries himself in the bamboo, sliding his arm around the second scout's neck, pressing a gloved hand over his rifle's trigger guard to prevent accidental discharge. A quick twist, a controlled pull. The scout slumps silently into Rhodes's arms. The third scout turns instinctively toward the disturbance, but all he sees is swirling shadow. He raises his rifle just as Roker's hand covers his mouth. A single brutal elbow to the diaphragm knocks the air out of him. Roker's knee pins him to the ground. Steel flashes once, then disappears beneath the leaves. 3 scouts, 3 kills. Not a sound above a whisper, but the fourth, the one McAllister smelled earlier, moves. He doesn't see the ambush, but he senses the shift in the jungle's breathing. His instincts, those honed by years of guerrilla warfare, ignite in panic. He slides backward, rifle lifting, preparing to sprint deeper into the bush and alert the nearest VC platoon. But McAllister is already behind him. The Australian sergeant steps out from the shadow of a tree, appearing as if grown from the bark. His foot snaps a single twig, not by accident, but by choice. The scout whirls around. Their eyes lock. For a split second, neither man breathes. The scout sees a ghost, a man who shouldn't be there, in a place no enemy could reach without making noise. He opens his mouth, perhaps to shout, perhaps to curse. McAllister's hand clamps around his jaw before a single word escapes. His knife hovers, but he pauses, just long enough to whisper into the scout's ear in a calm, eerie murmur. The jungle chose the wrong side tonight. The scout's body trembles, and then the blade slides clean. The final VC collapses silently into McAllister's arms. The entire fight lasts 11 seconds. Jade emerges from behind a tree, scanning the darkness with binoculars. No lanterns flicker in the distance, no whistles blow, no rifle bolts clack, no movement stirs beyond their small pocket of forest. 4 scouts, he whispers. All quiet. McAllister wipes his blade on a wet leaf, keeping eyes on the tree line. No, he corrects softly. 4 scouts. But there were 5 passing through earlier. Jade swivels, disbelief etched on his face. 5? McAllister kneels beside a crushed fern, pointing at a broken stem hidden beneath the litter. See the angle. Someone stepped here with a soft boot. Light. Probably the team leader. He split off. Roker whispers. When? 40 minutes ago. Maybe less. How can you... McAllister silences him with a small gesture, then presses his palm against the soil. It's still warm where he knelt. Jade feels cold despite the tropical heat. The sergeant rises, slinging his rifle. His voice is steady, but beneath it lies something else. A hunter's focus sharpened to a blade's edge. He went northeast, toward the stream. A pause. And he's not running away. Jade's eyes narrow. Then what's he doing? McAllister's answer is immediate. He's circling. Roker's breath catches. Circling us? No, McAllister says. He's circling the ambush site. The lieutenant realizes what that means. This scout isn't fleeing. He's repositioning. He's preparing to watch the ambush from a distance, to learn, to track, to identify tactics. A professional, a survivor, a dangerous one. Jade grips his rifle. Does he know we're here? McAllister looks out into the darkness. He knows. Something changed, and that's enough. Behind them, the jungle seems to shift again, wind rolling through the canopy, carrying the faintest hint of sweat, foliage, and iron. A predator is out there. But it isn't the Australians, it's the scout who lived long enough to understand that ghosts walk these forests. The jungle grows still around the Australian patrol as if listening with them. The men crouch, breath shallow, waiting for McAllister's next word. Lieutenant Jade studies the darkness ahead, but the canopy is thick. No moonlight penetrates beyond a few trembling leaves. McAllister raises his hand. No words, just a gesture. Form wedge. Move quiet. Follow me. The patrol glides forward, threading between roots and vines. Boots find soft soil, avoiding dry sticks. Rifle straps are cinched to prevent metal from clinking. Every man becomes a shadow. Ahead, the forest changes. The scent shifts. Less stagnant, more water-heavy. A stream is close, so is the scout. The Australians fan out. Hayes moves left along a fallen log thick with moss. Rhodes cuts right, hugging a slope. Roker sticks close to Jade, covering the rear. McAllister leads, eyes half closed, not because he's tired, but because closing them sharpens the sounds and scents. The jungle speaks differently when you don't look at it. He kneels suddenly. The patrol halts instantly. Before them, the stream glimmers faintly through the trees. Over the water, humidity hangs like a veil. Dragonflies skim the surface in silver arcs. But McAllister is staring at the mud. He places 2 fingers onto a shallow print, fresh, wet around the edges. He crossed here, he whispers, 5 minutes ago. How do you know it's 5? Jade whispers back. McAllister doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. His men trust him. They move upstream quietly, following the faint disturbance in the soil where a man had walked, then crouched, then stood again. A branch bent upward shows where he lifted it. A patch of crushed reeds shows where he paused to listen. This was no ordinary scout. This was a tracker. After another 50 meters, McAllister finds the sign that confirms it. A small knot of vines twisted deliberately into a loop. A mark. A signal. He's telling someone he saw movement, McAllister murmurs, or that he felt something wrong. Roker swallows hard. Should we expect company? Not yet, McAllister replies. This scout works alone. Maybe he's trying to escape, Jade suggests. McAllister shakes his head slowly. No, he's hunting. The patrol moves deeper, senses heightened. Far off in the trees, a gecko chirps 1, 2, 3 times. The rhythmic call echoes through the darkness, then stops abruptly. McAllister stiffens. That's him, Jade frowns. A gecko? No, McAllister says. A man mimicking one. A moment later, a faint rustle travels across the canopy. Not wind, not an animal. A signal. The scout is close, within 20 meters. Hayes raises his rifle, scanning the treetops. Rhodes wipes sweat from his brow at the back of his wrist. Roker's thumb rests on his safety catch, ready, but controlled. Jade whispers, "Where is he?" McAllister closes his eyes again. He inhales deeply, and he smells it. Sweat mixed with fear, a faint hint of rice husk, mud drying on cloth. He points up. Tree, low branch, 10 meters forward. The entire patrol repositions instantly, barrels rising. The tree ahead is wide, roots twisting like giant serpents. Its lower branches sag under moisture, thick leaves obscuring anything behind. For 10 seconds, nothing moves. Then, a shadow shifts, a silhouette, clinging to the underside of the branch. The scout drops from above like a leopard, landing in a crouch, rifle raised, eyes burning with desperation. He fires. But the sound never comes. Jade tackles him from the left, knocking the rifle sideways. The muzzle flash spits harmlessly into the stream. Hayes grabs the man's arm. Rhodes locks his wrist. Roker slams a knee into his thigh. The scout fights like a cornered wolf, silent, fast, ferocious, but he's outnumbered, pinned, disarmed, breathing hard, eyes darting. McAllister steps forward and kneels before him. The scout stares back, not with fear, but with the wary respect of a predator meeting another predator. McAllister speaks softly. "You felt the jungle change, didn't you?" The scout's eyes widen. He understands. He nods, trembling, not from fear, but from awe. Jade whispers, "What's he saying?" McAllister answers without looking away from the scout. "He thought we were spirits because we moved without sound." The scout exhales shakily, muttering a phrase in Vietnamese. McAllister translates, "He says the SAS smell the jungle better than them." The patrol goes silent. For the first time that night, Jade feels the weight of what they've done. They weren't just soldiers tonight. They were something else to this scout. They were ghosts. The captured scout kneels in the mud, breathing hard, sweat streaking down his face like rain. His rifle lies broken beside the roots. The Australians stand around him, not threatening, not triumphant, but watchful. The jungle hums again. Insects resume their chorus. A warm breeze drifts past, carrying the scent of river water and crushed leaves. It feels like the forest itself has exhaled. Lieutenant Jade crouches beside McAllister. "What do we do with him?" McAllister studies the scout's eyes. They are sharp, intelligent, far more aware than most enemy patrolmen. This wasn't some conscript. This was a seasoned tracker, a professional in his own right. "He's alone," McAllister says, "and he knows he's beaten." The scout shifts his gaze between the Australians, trying to read their intentions. Rhodes offers him a canteen. After a moment's hesitation, the scout drinks, small, cautious sips. Jade asks softly, "Ask him why he mimicked the gecko." McAllister switches languages smoothly. The scout responds quietly. McAllister translates, "He was testing us, seeing if we responded. He thought he felt the forest move and wanted to know if it was real." Hayes mutters, "Christ, he was tracking us while we tracked him." McAllister nods, "And he was good, very good." Jade's eyes narrow. "But he still couldn't find you." McAllister looks up at the canopy, listening to the leaves rustle. "He trusted his eyes, his ears, his instincts." A pause. "We trusted everything." The scout watches them with a strange mix of admiration and dread. Then he speaks again, timidly, reluctantly. McAllister leans closer to listen. The scout finishes. Silence settles. Jade asks, What did he say? McAllister wipes mud from his blade and answers quietly. He says his unit believed the Australian SAS didn't track them like men, but like animals do. He said we felt the jungle changing before people moved. He said we smelled branches that snapped, soil that cooled, vines that twisted. A beat. He said they feared us. Jade tries to process that. Feared us because we moved quietly? McAllister shakes his head. No, because we moved correctly. Rhodes chuckles nervously. We're not spirits. No, McAllister agrees. But to men who live in this forest, men who know every sound, every shadow, every smell, finding something they can't detect? He looks back at the scout. That's supernatural! The scout bows his head, not in surrender, but in acknowledgement. It's an unspoken truth between hunters. Jade exhales. What now? We release him, McAllister says. Roker nearly chokes. Release him? McAllister nods calmly. He'll go back with the story. And fear spreads faster than bullets. The scout's eyes flare. Surprise, gratitude, confusion all at once. McAllister cuts the bindings from the man's wrists with a single swift motion, then gestures toward the dark tree line. The scout rises slowly. For a moment, he hesitates, studying the faces of the men who defeated him. Then he offers a single nod, almost ceremonial, before melting back into the forest. Within seconds, he is gone. No twig snaps, no brush stirs. Only the breeze marks his passing. Hayes mutters, he's good. McAllister stands, checking the sky as first hints of pale blue seep into the horizon. He is. But he learned something tonight. Jade smirks. What's that? McAllister shoulders his rifle and begins moving the patrol back toward extraction. That the SAS don't fear the jungle. He looks over his shoulder, eyes narrowing with quiet intensity. We listen to it. The patrol falls in behind him, boots moving silently through the brush. As dawn breaks across Phuoc Tuy province, the Australians disappear into the ferns, 6 shadows swallowed by the green world they have mastered. Behind them, the legend grows. A lone Vietnamese scout, shaken but alive, runs through the forest toward his unit, ready to report something his commanders will struggle to believe. That the Australians could smell the jungle move before men did. That they walked like phantoms. That they hunted without eyes. And that the forest itself seemed to warn them. The myth spreads, carried from one scout to another, from platoon to platoon, until even hardened Viet Cong veterans begin whispering, the Australians can feel the jungle. They sense you before they see you. They smell the leaves you break. The Australians never claimed it. The Viet Cong gave them that reputation. And in the war of shadows beneath the canopy of Vietnam, that reputation was worth more than any weapon.